have to worry about that. Oh, okay.
Always a cold start.
Okay.
Always. We have to start off our cold opens from now on with saying something that confuses the heck out of chat. Like, yeah, and that's the reason why you don't use a duck to mop up blood.
That's right. That's right.
Like something where they'll just be like, "What are y'all talking about?"
That's why I kicked that chicken out of the house. What?
Well, welcome everyone to One Stop Co-op Shop. We're here. My mic's going on the crazy too. We're here to do our co-op chat.
I have a Mac.
Don't worry, Steve. I'm watching my levels go from it's jumped from its normal all the way down to 10 and in between. So I'm just constantly clicking it going forward.
Yeah, Windows loves trying to be smart, and it drives us nuts. Because like we know what we want to set it at. So. Oh gosh, Yogi Bear's already made a comment about that. I'm gonna try that next time, Derek. I will send you the dry cleaning bill. Welcome. I see a lot of people on there. You got Snow, got Ryan, got Yogi. So welcome. Okay, so this is our weekly live chat where we talk about a different topic each week with a cooperative board game focus normally. We usually stay on topic. Usually. Yep, we'll see.
We are in the same universe as the topic, and that's all that's important.
There you go.
We decided to change the topic right at the last minute, though. We're going to talk about the different flavors of coffee when it comes to board games, and do you use different coffee while you play your board games?
Well, that's just to be you guys. I think I don't drink coffee. So
Steve can't talk about that when he doesn't drink coffee. Can you believe that? Okay, so I don't know. I think I might have mentioned this before, but when we decided to do merch for the One Stop Co-op Shop, one of the things they had was coffee mugs. I was like, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. We could all have our coffee in our mugs. And like Colin comes on and goes, I probably just use it for water. I don't drink coffee. I'm like, you're like a tax collector. How do you not drink coffee, right? And then all of a sudden Mike comes on and goes, yeah, I don't drink coffee either. I'm like, you're a teacher. How do you even deal with that about drinking coffee? And then just all of a sudden, the next thing I realized, I was the only member of the One Stop Co-op Shop that drinks coffee.
Oh, yeah. I never drank coffee. I was never a coffee person until I started getting migraines. And just a straight black coffee is great for migraines for people who don't know. Take a shot of straight black hot coffee, it'll go away. But after that, because I got them so often, I ended up just constantly drinking coffee. So now I like coffee. But it's all straight black. I don't put anything in it.
I don't either. I just drink the only reason I drink coffee is so that caffeine hits my brain.
Yogi.
He's unsubscribed. No coffee drinkers.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I just started drinking coffee because I thought I needed. I wanted to wake up.
Tea. I do like tea, Snow. I do like tea for sure. But we're not here to talk about coffee and tea.
Nope.
Despite appearances.
Beyond popular belief, coffee is not the topic today.
Oh my god, I love you guys. This is great.
We are here to kind of have a continuation from last week's topic. So last week we talked about campaign games. And we're going to continue that on with a different twist. We're talking about replayability when it comes to campaign games. And so I want to touch on different topics throughout this, like which campaigns have we replayed, which ones are we hoping to replay, for example. But I kind of want to start off with probably the most important question is replayability even important when it comes to campaign games?
For me, no, after Colin helped me have an epiphany.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Let's remember that Kanji no longer is interested in campaign games.
I still like campaign games. It's just more, I think I have a lower tolerance for campaign, like stick-to-itiveness is probably the better word to use.
He's being modest. He actually hates campaign games. He's just threw them all in the garbage. No, actually, I know you have some still, and the one that, like you said, it's ones that it has to hit a certain area or buttons for you in order to really keep it, and that makes sense. For me, I'm just the opposite. It's like usually I'm okay with campaign games, and I need what I do need from them is at least something that's a little bit different from the other ones. That's the deal.
Yeah, my
What
only
about you?
comment though is I never make it through once, let alone having to worry about replayability. So
I made it through. I
okay.
played Role Player Adventures, and I've made it. I've finished that. I completed that game. Um, I'm trying to think of what else I've played campaign wise that I've completed. There's other games I've played that I've completed campaign wise, but going back to them, no, because the story's done.
I now I this is a topic I want to touch on because I agree with what Snow's bringing up here. It depends on the type of campaign. I agree with
Hmm.
that. Like she
I
mentioned,
agree.
the campaign is focused on the story. Then do you care about replayability? Like, no, you don't, because it's the story, right? Once you hear the story,
Yeah,
you're good. Move on.
yeah, and I think that's me.
So, and that's true for me for certain campaigns, but not all of them. Some of them, I just enjoyed the mechanics of how it unfolded. Some of
Hmm.
them are like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to replay it again. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think
No,
I'm in the bank with Snow in terms of I'm in it for the story. So when the story's over, I'm done.
and that I think is a lot for me too. But there's some caveats. If I like, for example, if I played Oathsworn all the way through with Colin, and then let's say 5 years from now, my son's like, "Hey, I'd really like to play that Oathsworn game you guys play." I would probably have no problem replaying that, even though it is really story driven. And even Colin and I talked about that because he's planning to play it with his board game group. And I go, "How are you going to be able to do that?" He's like, "What do you mean?" There's probably stuff I forgot. I go, "I'll bet you don't." Because there's a lot of points in those stories where you can that are pretty memorable. And I think that's one of the harder parts is when you have such a memorable story like Oathsworn and you try to replay it, it you don't get that the fun comes more in watching the other people that have never experienced it be able to experience it. And maybe some people don't get that joy, but I do. I enjoy watching people discover the story. It's kind of like watching my favorite movie with somebody that's never seen it before. I think it's great. Even though I watch my favorite movie all the time. Maybe it's a bad example. Bad example.
I think Yogi asks a question to which I want to pose that to Bairnt as he's talking about Oathsworn, and we
Uh-oh.
have Oathsworn up when he talks about what about variability versus replayability. Like
Variability.
yeah, like the variety that's in the game versus the replayability of the game. So when it comes to Oathsworn, do you feel that there's variability in the game so that when someone else comes to it or you're talking about those differences, the variety that exists within the game makes it feel new? Does that
Yes.
make sense?
I have played the first story 3 times with people, and we've come to the boss fight 3 different ways, which is mind blowing to me. And I was not steering them to go into certain places. So I think being able, if the story wasn't a linear story like Oathsworn, it's not linear. There's a lot of different choosing different ways and different things that will happen. They all kind of, it's kind of like one of those things where it's interesting because I always think of it as like a bowl where it starts at one end and it like spans out, but then it all funnels back into like almost like a funnel. It starts in one spot and then it has this huge opening and then it all funnels into the ending. You
But
always
it's all on rails though, right? I mean, no matter what, you're
Yeah,
still
yeah, it is. It's all on rails. You're all going to funnel into that boss battle. How you get to that boss battle is completely dependent on some of the choices you make, but they all intertwine enough to make you get to that boss fight. So for that particular game, I like I said, I played the intro 3 times. I'd play the whole thing 3 times, and there's moments where I'm sure I would have a completely different outlook than some other people or different ways of getting these boss battles. The funny thing is the boss battles is probably the part that has the least amount of replayability because unlike something like Kingdom Death, where you get like a stack of 20 cards and then like you only use 10 of them or something, you're most of the time going through a majority of those
yeah,
counter.
yeah.
Um, so you've like even when we are fighting the Brood Mother at the beginning, and I fought it again and again,
Mhm.
I kind of knew at that point what could potentially be pulled. Sure, there's still enough variety because it
Mhm.
went on to 5 cards that I never knew exactly what I was going to do. The characters themselves also give you a little bit of variety, so you can choose. And the cool thing is, we've Colin and I just swap out whatever you want. You don't have to play the same character over and over again. And there's still 2 we haven't played.
So there's a little bit of let me say it because I don't know how to broach that part of Oathsworn. It's more I want to check in with you to see like when you talk about variety, you talk about like the different characters that are within the game. I'd like to hear your thoughts on variety when it comes to the characters themselves. Like, is it, let's say, for instance, the blade, right? You've got the blade, and do you feel that the blade has variety, or is it nope? This is how this character build's going to be, and but
again, I think getting those cards at certain levels does give differences. I think being able to know what you're fighting helps decide how the blade fights. I mean, he's never going to be a ranged character. I mean, that's never going to happen. So
yeah, but I'm talking about more about no. Oh yeah, I want the blade to be ranged. No, not that, but more in the blade's character, which is what he is. Your basic, I think the blade's a paladin. I think, right? Or is he a paladin class? I can't remember. I played him like twice, but I'm just thinking that no matter who plays the blade plays the same.
Yeah, I would say yes, because you're all based. It is really all based on the cards. It's not based on something like Madara, where it's based on gear and abilities. It's all based on the cards.
Okay.
So the cards are always going to have like cards that are all about maneuvering around the battlefield to get into tactical positions against this thing, or just hitting it hard, or like I found at the end, which has been absolutely my favorite thing on the planet. I hit you, you hit me, you're taking more of the damage, which I think is absolutely awesome for this guy. It's so cool. But now, again, if we move to Madara, the variety and the replayability comes with the characters, and it comes with the way you go with the encounters, where that's just, I believe, the opposite than Osworn, because in Madara, that story is not exactly linear, because as you lose, you're going to go to different parts of the story. But I think, again, it's going to move. There's less choice than you have in Osworn.
There's less choice for real. Yes, I would agree with you that, like, I think, like, Madara, whether you win or lose, the story keeps trucking. And there's,
unless you lose too many times and it says thank you for playing.
Then it says game over. So I think that one's on heavy rails as well. But I mean, on the topic that we're talking about of campaign replayability, I don't think it has, like, from my experience with Madara's, I don't think it has that, only because once you finish the story.
I agree with you with Madara. I think that once I play Madara through, I wouldn't need to again. But now, on the flip side, this also has something that the Osworn doesn't. For example, one thing we have to discuss is how long it takes you to get through these campaigns. Do you have a 5-mission campaign that has a lot of different variety as you play through it?
And
replayability. If I have Aeon Trespass Odyssey that has 120 hours of story, I mean, there's no way I'm ever probably going to be able to I won't even probably finish it. You know what I mean?
Well, so I think with ATO, and I know, Steve, you're like let me pull up these images, but with ATO and with my audio is jumping all over the place with ATO.
Picture duty right now. Sorry.
with ATO and with KDM, it's not about, like, the campaign is never supposed to end. It can, because you're supposed to die, and so the replayability of, and I'll lump ATO with KDM, and the replayability of Aeon Trespass Odyssey and Kingdom Death Monster is this wonderfulness of the story that comes from your failure. That, to me, Kingdom Death, I haven't played ATO enough to say that ATO has this too, but Kingdom Death has, like, the most beautiful replayability I've ever seen. It's you don't care, like, you care about how far you can get, but that's like the underlying bits. The thing that really stays is the experience you have with Kingdom Death. It's like, I killed my entire settlement one time in the funniest, saddest, weirdest way, and that stays with me, right? That stays with me, and the replayability of it is, when I go back to it, I have a completely different experience the next time I play. As to when I come back to it, I have a completely different experience. So the replayability in KDM is massive, because you will all, no matter what happens, you will never play the same game twice. And I think that's very difficult for other games to say. Like, I know you're having a really great time with Oathsworn, but I think Oathsworn for me can't say that when I play it, I will have a completely different experience like I do with KDM.
100% agree with you on this one, Derek. There's 100% agreement. I think that's what makes KDM such a special game, is that the like I've always told people, it's a boss building settlement building game, and basically you are writing your story. You are experiencing your story as you go through it. You're not following a story in the game. You're creating the story that goes with it. I think that's something that very few games can do. And the reason you're able to create the reason it feels like you're creating a story is they don't really present you with enough to really know what's going on. And that like imagination and thinking of what's going on and how it's all transformed. Like all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're gonna go fight a lion. Well, you meet as you're going, you hear some scraping across the ground, and all of a sudden you meet this cloaked figure with like 2 different blades attached to him. Roll like a perception check, or I know that's not the game. You know what I mean? Roll a perception check. Okay, I rolled a 5. He laughs at you a little bit and moves on in his life. And I'm like, what the heck was that guy?
Yeah.
What does that have anything to do with it? But like now I know there's this guy in this world somewhere.
It in of itself is a true sandbox game. It's a sandbox boss battler.
Yeah.
And my thing is, everything is about the settlement in that game. And it's just, even in the settlement, it's just wild what can happen.
And I would replay that one many times, and I have actually played 3 different times. I actually have never played all the way to the end 3 times, but I have at least started the game 3 different times. And it is one of the only ones I've actually completed, and I actually completed on my channel and on One Stop Co-op Shop as well.
I mean, what you're saying, this one is being driven by its emergent narrative, though. So what it comes down to, right?
I think that the narrative is built on the solid mechanics of the game.
Right, the emergent narrative, not a dictated narrative.
Right.
I'm interested to see what happens. So, for those that don't know, the Gambler Chest is moments away from shipping. So,
lies.
Oh no, I paid for my shipping. It's on boats. I think it's on its way here. So I am super pumped for this. Well, you might see about a 40 or 80 stream or a video series on it when I get it. Just to see what happens. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's such a popular game to for me, when I played Kingdom Death Monster for the One Stop Co-op Shop on my channel, I played it I guess you could say recently compared to how long it's been out. I think I played it in 2021, might even 2020. I don't remember. But that game was technically old by then because it'd been out since like 2017, I think, or something, right? 18 or something. And so, but when I did it, people were super excited to watch it because, like you said, you're making the story. People aren't going to be like, oh, I played this game. I know the story for this game. I know how these characters do stuff and things like that. No, you're watching it because you want to see it happen. And it's like you said, it's really, really cool.
So I'm going to jump back and be a little bit of a counterpoint to one thing you guys brought up. And
yeah,
I'll let Madara for this one. Here. I know you guys said that Madara wasn't a replayable game for you guys. That one would be a replayable game for me. Really? And the reason why is because the character builds and growth options is massive. So like, I know the story, but like I would want to take, I can't remember the characters' names, but I would take a character name and he was like a ranger one time. Well, now I'm gonna make him a magic user or something, or maybe I'll make him a healer, and have that flexibility of trying different strategies and builds would drive me to bring that back to the table.
So I'll throw this one at you.
Go ahead.
The reason. What if I told you that I can give you a constantly changing story with the same customization that Madara has?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So would you pick that over Madara?
Probably, yes.
That's KDM.
But KDM's the emergent narrative, though, right?
It's an emergent narrative, but it also has that thing where you were saying like you would replay the customization of Madara. It has that. You craft gear and you can craft every piece of gear that you have, which makes you customize your character to be anything you want. And I think
To a point, I would say, I know Kanji's about to probably reach through the screen and throttle me. I think there is less variety in Kingdom Death versus Madara when it comes to what you can do with characters based on gear.
Yeah,
But
because you can't cast spells. There's no
you
spellcaster.
kind of lose that whole
Mhm,
part there.
mhm,
But
mhm.
yes, there is a very similar way of
Yeah,
meeting characters. But yeah, I think you have more variety and more. What's the word I'm looking for?
yeah,
I just variety in the way. Instead of getting like a sword that attacks once that's super powerful versus a sword that attacks 4 times that has this, but then you get your fighting arts, which make you be able to like, oh, now I can actually carry this big giant sword,
right,
do
right,
awesome things,
right.
or I can rage and stuff like this. So you do have that element, but yeah, I think there's a little bit more variety
Yeah,
in the
yeah, and I don't put that to try to compare to Madara. I think my problems with Madara exist as they do, which we've talked about ad nauseum. But I think it's more just I don't think the player customization, like Steve, for you, is. Do you feel? Are you saying that the story itself is not a factor in your replayability of games?
Depends on the game. If it's the main thing driving the game, then yes, I would not replay it if I already know the story. But if
Well,
there's other elements that bring me to the table for me personally want to play the game, and that's
mm,
why I'm calling Madara, because when I played this with
mm,
Bairnt, I had a blast at trying to figure out like, ooh, how I want to build this guy. We got this new equipment now. How do I change my loadout to maybe leverage this equipment, right? And that was fun for me.
uh, are you a min maxer?
Uh, no,
Yes.
You
I'm a
should see
No.
his
I'm a
guys.
weird
You
builder.
should have seen his guys in Madara. He is not a min maxer.
No, I'm the
Okay.
type of guy that drives like people like Mike nuts because or Terrence nuts too, because like I will bring like weird decks that do random stuff into my games that like Terrence. There's in Lord of the Rings. There's a very popular card called Test of Will. It's a blue card and it's very powerful. It cancels bad cards. I don't use it in my decks because I played it a lot, and so I use other stuff instead. And it drives Terrence nuts because I'm not min maxing. Because like, why don't you have this potential in your deck? I'm like, well, I would do this other thing. This is weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
So,
like for Lord of the Rings,
That is one of the
we
beauties.
built a deck one time
so
with
yeah.
one hero that couldn't attack, defend, or quest. So like this is how I approach games. I just do weird
Oh,
stuff.
I see. I see. Okay. Okay. Okay.
He
So
wants to think outside of the box.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
exactly. That's
So,
Ryan. Bring one
so
hero that
LC
can fight, defend, or quest.
LCGs are your bag then. Like LCGs are your bag because your thing is more. It's not. I want to. I mean, you said it already, but I'm just restating. It's not that I want to. I want to build the strongest deck. It's that I want to see how far I can push the system.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
How can I take the system and what can I do with it?
yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
me. So yeah, so that's why Madara becomes replayable for me for that aspect. So,
Okay.
but I wouldn't replay it for the story because the story's good. I like the story, but it's not a driving factor that lets me bring back. The other one I'll bring up that I have actually replayed, the campaign multiple times, is Sword and Sorcery. Not this one, the Ancient Chronicles one, but I played the Immortal Souls one a few times
Mhm.
through. But that one I replayed it because I had different groups and there's a ton of different heroes in that game, and they all play differently. So I wanted to see what different mix of heroes can do, and not to mention that you get different item loadouts as you go through it.
Mhm.
And there's one comment earlier, and I had it pulled up earlier. I forget about that. Oh yeah, Jack mentioned this too. Branching stories too, right? Now, Sword and Sorcery, to be fair, is mostly on Rails, but there are a few branches in there, so it's nice to be able to come back to it and see where those branches go.
Okay.
That's one of the exciting things for me to dig into Rogue Angels when I get a chance, is because his branching narratives are truly branching. You will not see all of the missions depending on
Mhm.
which way you go, how your game happens. The book might have 80 missions, but you might only play like 35 of them because of the way you go through the game. And so there, in that sense, now I have a reason to replay that game because like, okay, so at the very beginning we chose to like grab the ice crystal. Let's grab the fire crystal this time just to see what happens.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then that goes down a different path. And the cool thing about Rogue Angels when it comes out is not only is the story going to can be played completely different based on your choices, there are a lot of different characters you can choose, and technically you're supposed to kind of play the same character through the narrative. So when you come back to play it again, you're going to be able to pick a completely different character that plays 100% different to be able to experience the story in a completely different way. And the more games go in that direction, I honestly would rather have a campaign game that says like, oh, it's an 80-hour campaign, but that's if you've played all the snar and missions. You're not going to see them all, so it's really only going to be 35 hours, let's say. I mean, sure, still that sounds like an astronomical amount of time. It almost feels like me sitting in front of Netflix and binging for an entire weekend. But being able to try new characters and play through these missions, but having them be completely different is almost better for me than having an on rails game. Because like you say, when I get to that ending, even though I can play it with a different character, it may not be as fulfilling for me because I've already experienced that story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And campaign replayability in campaigns vary based on who's playing them, and I don't mean like, oh, every individual. I mean like, okay, let's talk about us three, because us three is a really great example of this. You've got three different experiences of one game. You got a solo player, you got somebody who plays in a group, and you have someone who plays with a spouse. So the outcomes of those games can vary differently. For a solo gamer, I can't care about the enjoyment of the table. I mean, I do in terms of the chat. I love when the chat is active and when they're playing with me, but I mean, peeling back all the layers of the onion, it's me sitting at a table playing a game. So therefore, I have to care about something, and story falls into it for me, because the rest just kind of falls away. With Bairnt, he's with Colin, and so he's like, we're feeding off of each other, reviving on that stuff, and so we have some good laughs from a different point of view, and so therefore, story's good. But now also he's got someone at the table to help that stuff out.
Yep.
And with Kim and Steve, Bairnt and Colin are board gamers. Kim is a board gamer, but she's not a board gamer like Steve's a board gamer. So it's a completely different perspective of board gaming when it comes to someone who is deep into the hobby as opposed to somebody who enjoys the hobby. And so when we ask, sorry, go ahead.
I think it's a really good point, because I think, particularly with a solo, I think that narrative becomes a much greater focus. I agree with you completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so my thing is just when we talk about games that we love, I think you'll hear that variance in us, and you'll hear me always talk about story, is because that's all I got, right? And so but the mechanics still matter. It's just the story's at the forefront, because I'm telling you a narrative as I play this game. And if the narrative is blah, you're not going to be interested in the mechanics unless you've played it and you want to see how the game turns out. For me, like, I just started playing Pandemic Legacy Season 2. A lot of people have played Pandemic, so they want to see how I'm going to fall down the stairs and how it turns out.
Yes.
But if Pandemic Legacy Season 2 was brand new, it just came out, nobody has played it yet, I think those I don't go for the numbers, but I just have to use it for this context. Those numbers would be lower, because everybody's like, you're playing Pandemic, dude. Who cares?
Well, the Legacy one's a little bit different too, because you are tearing up stuff and changing the board in different ways. Like,
yeah, fair. That wasn't a good analogy.
Yeah,
fair.
but that's another point that's good to bring up. Like, for a Legacy game, I have zero desire to replay those, despite the fact that it would be different each time, right?
You can't. You tore up the game.
Well, I mean, I'm buying a new copy of it, right? So, but yes.
Well, see,
he's played those Pandemic Legacy games multiple times.
Yes, like I played Pandemic Legacy Season 1 with him, and he said I think that was his third or fourth time playing it. And now to him, he and his wife, Monica, for them, it was they enjoy. Now, of course, again, we're doing a different take than Derrick. he wouldn't want to redo it because he doesn't have that joy of seeing Brent and I play this game and being like, "Are you kidding me? That's what happened." And then like you see Colin back there, "Yeah, I knew this was coming. I'm so you're so excited for that."
Yeah.
So that, like, for example, I would have no problem playing Pandemic Legacy Season 1 with, like, say, my wife and kid or something, because they haven't played it. And it'd be really, and even when they were playing it, they played for like third or fourth time. There's parts in it where they're like, "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that." And I'm like, "Really? How would you?" I mean, I maybe it's if you put a game away for long enough, you'll forget about things. But I don't know. For some reason, it's hard for me to totally forget about things. I mean, maybe that's because I can still quote movies from the 80s that I've seen.
I can do that too. I can do that too.
People are like, "What's that from?" I'm like, "Oh, that's from The American Tale." They're like, "When's the last time you saw that?"
That's my bane too. I hang on to useless information.
Yeah.
And so I remember every game I've played and how it turned out.
That's a little bit more than me. Not that much. No.
I remember every game I've played and how it's turned out, and so the variety in gaming, the replayability, we're coming back full circle here. The replayability of campaigns to me has to give me something different, and I think that's one of the reasons that sinks in with me with games I like Gloom and Kill for. Right, my favorite game of all time is that every time I play it, outcome's different. Every time I play.
Mm-hmm.
So
really, that it's a one and done game.
Gloom of Killforth is I don't have the image pulled up. I'm not prepared for all these games we're talking about.
I'm sorry.
Killforth is a really good example of it's not really a campaign game though, right? It's a one.
No, it can be. It can be. So yeah, there is a mode where you take on all the ancients.
Oh, okay.
And so you get, I wouldn't call it campaign. I'd probably say it's an epic.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so the replayability of the epic is there for me.
Sure.
But even outside of the epic, where you're playing each individual ancient, I always come back to it. One, because it has a place in my heart, but two, even if it had a place in my heart, if I didn't feel like I could come back to it as often as I do, I wouldn't. I mean, there's other games to play, but I think it really checks a lot of boxes.
So that's going to pull into another type of campaign game I'm going to bring up, and I think Val and Villainy is a good example of this, where it has a campaign, but every time you play the campaign, you can choose a different character, and you're going to build up that character each time from 0 to hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's quick.
It's quick. Yeah, it doesn't take too long. Moves at a good pace, for sure. Well, I will say that the game itself takes a little bit longer than I would like, but it moves at a good pace.
Zombicide.
It's not an 80-hour campaign.
Yeah. Zombicide's a good one too. Yeah, definitely.
Zombicide? Oh yeah.
Yeah, because every mission is 0 to hero. Every mission.
Yep, exactly.
Isn't Black Plague?
There is a campaign in Zombicide, but I've never desired to play it though. There
is one that they kind of built a campaign around, didn't they? Like Orc something or
Green Horde.
Is that the one? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and for example, I just got Shadows of Brimstone, the new stuff. They just introduced a campaign mode to it.
Yeah.
That game scares me.
Can you believe that? This game's been around for so long. If you want to play, I've always told people, if you want to play a sandbox dungeon crawler, that's the one, man. Because
it's too random.
Oh yeah, you'd die. You wouldn't make it to the first room. You'd be like, "Oh, I can take these guys on." Oh my gosh, they murdered all my guys. I failed the mission. So because this D6 is like crazy, you'd be like, "Okay, we're gonna start moving." Okay, my guys are moving one space every time. Yep, sorry, Derrick, you got to roll better than a 1. So,
Robin.
Yeah, I had to carry. Yeah, she had to carry the box in yesterday. It was really big. She asked me when I was going to start learning to play the Tiny Epic series. The thing about Shadows of Brimstone, again, that's another campaign game, technically, because it's a sandbox campaign, because all the missions in those books you can play in any order you want. You can even kind of design your own missions to go with them, and you can create your own narrative as to how these all intertwine. Of course, there has been fan-made material on the internet to allow you to actually make this campaign, but the one I just got, Adventures, they actually do play in and it's only 8 missions again, so it's a pretty easy campaign to get through. and your characters are leveling up, but they do also level up outside of being in a campaign. So it was such an interesting, I've always been wanting them to do a campaign because I'm a person that kind of likes the structure of a story that moves forward instead of, but it also gave me the idea of being like, why are these guys doing this mission? Okay, so here's why they're doing it. They had to do this and this in order to get this happening, and now they're here in the dungeon bomb.
So I've got a question for the both of you then, because a game just came to mind, and I was like, wait, but would Steve and Bairnt call this a campaign game? So when we talk about campaign games, define that for me. Define a campaign game.
80-hour narrative, multiple branching paths with characters that you can play multiple ways.
So
I'm kidding. I'm 100% kidding.
Okay. I was gonna be like, so 80 hours is the cap? Like
120 hours minimum. You have to invest into the game in order to get to the end.
Your child has to go from newborn to high school before you complete the game.
You'll be done by the time you graduate from high school. Good to go. I would say anything that connects a couple of things together. One of my favorite ones to play with Colin that he actually has in his one-stop co-op shop top 5 games he'll never get rid of is Fireteam Zero. It's a 3-mission campaign, always a 3-mission campaign, and then you're done.
Yep. So is it okay? Yeah. Steve, what do you think? I'm curious.
For me, it has to be a series of connected plays of a game, either being in one sitting or broken up, depending on the situation you're playing at the game table. But it has to have persistence between those plays.
So let's say there is a story that has you have one thing you play, and then at the end you play another, and then it's over. Is that a campaign?
A story? I even mentioned story in my description because I don't think a story is required for campaign.
Well. I mean, I said story, but let me just say there is a mission. There's a mission you go on, and then you play another. There's a mission you go on that takes about 30, 45 minutes, and then you go on to another mission that takes 30, 45 minutes. And you take your equipment with you, and then it's over. Is that a campaign?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, I guess. As long as, I would say it has to having to have connecting sessions. I mean, I've got Deep Madness back here. Is that the game?
So yeah, I had this prep to pull up because I was wondering if this was going to come up.
What, Deep Madness? Oh,
not Deep Madness. Marvel United Infinity Challenge.
I was coming into that. I was coming into Marvel United, and I was also going to come into Dice Throne.
Yes, Dice Throne too.
Dice Throne Adventure. So Marvel United, is it a campaign?
This mode, yes, absolutely.
Kind of like the Phoenix 5. Is that like a campaign? Isn't that one similar to that?
It's also a campain.
Okay.
Yeah, those are those are fun. Those are the campaign ones.
Which is interesting because there's zero story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you do have persistence of some nature between them, right? You don't. There's no character growth in them, but yeah.
So Snow says campaign equals stuff carries over from game to game for several sessions, more than 2.
Sessions is a tough one because, like I said, like Marvel United, we can sit down and play this campaign in one sitting, right? That's one for me. That's one session. We don't have to. We could break it up and over a couple of days play each game, right? And that comes up with another game that we did complete the campaign of. That one is as I jump around, not this one, Assassin's Creed.
Yep, that's the one I was going to ask you about, Steve.
Yeah, so this one shorter. I think each mission is only 45 minutes. About it actually plays really fast, so like you can easily play multiple of these in one sitting. This one does have a story and does have a leveling up all that other stuff with it. So it has elements in the campaign, but yeah.
Okay.
But what are you going to bring up, Bairnt?
Oh, I was just wondering what you thought of Assassin's Creed. I know that's a kind of a longer campaign for you. And if you'd ever have an idea of wanting to go back to it again, and why would it make you go back to it, even though you've opened all the envelopes and discovered all the mysterious things? And honestly, from what I've played, the assassins don't play super different enough to really is it worth coming. I know they eventually get abilities and stuff that make them quite a little bit different, but in the end, they all kind of they all have a tendency to, well, I mean, I guess not even do the same things, because there's that one that does better with the light. Anyway, there's not as much variety versus Madara in that game when it comes to creating the characters.
That's true.
I would.
That's true for sure.
So I'm wondering if that's worth coming back to again. Even let's say, would you and Kim both come back to that at the same time, or as opposed to, like, for example, would Colin and I ever come back to Oathsworn together and play it again? Probably not. That's the thing.
I still have my Assassin's Creed, right? So kind of wish they made it so there was standalone options. Like Sword and Sorcery, the nice thing about that one is you can play one mission as a standalone, and that's fine. It's not set up that way for Assassin's Creed, unfortunately. But I will come back to it because there are, even despite opening all the envelopes and knowing kind of what the story does, there are things we did not see in the game, and that's because we didn't play with all the characters. And
well, that's right. They all have some of their own personal quests.
They all have personal quests, exactly. So I would go back to play those for sure. And honestly, I really enjoyed the mechanics of Assassin's Creed. It's quick to play, so I'm not committing a lot to sit down and play it again. There's a lot of us campaigns missions in there, but it's not too much there. There is also something at the end, which I'll leave spoiler free, that adds more. It gives you a little push to replay it again.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool to give you that.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is because there are games that I have that are like Dice Throne Adventures, right? You play the Portal Quest, then you fight the boss, and it's done. And I was like, okay, well, or Portal Crawl, is that a campaign? And they're two completely different sessions. It's not they're all in the same session. The Portal Crawl is one session. The boss battle is another session. But it's all connected, and you take all the stuff that you get from the Portal Crawl to the boss battle. Is it a campaign? Another game.
I wouldn't consider that as a campaign, though.
Why not?
Because it's like the sessions that you're connecting don't really have. That's technically, to me, would be one session. Going through the adventure to get to the boss and fight him.
Well, but think of it like Oathsworn, where you go through the narrative.
Yeah.
And then you have to get to the boss and fight it. Now
that'd be one session for me.
Okay.
That to me, that's just how I would look at it.
Well, the setup of the boss fight and all that is all different. So it's not. Oh, you have to walk the portals, fight monsters, so dungeon crawl, and then when you get to the final portal, you get to pick whichever boss you want to fight, and then you fight it, and then you go to the next portal crawl, and then you do the next thing.
If you did the portal crawl boss battle and then new portal crawl boss battle would be connected, I would consider that a campaign. But it's kind of like playing Sword and Sorcery and going all the way through the dungeon. And then before we open the next door, we're going to go to the next session. Before we open the last door. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So well, this is the reason I was asking.
Because the first game and the second game are different.
Even right,
if
but
they're connected, they're not a campaign for you?
Well, no, because you're not completing what you did the first time. The first time you're like getting to the boss and you fight the boss. It just seems like that'd be one whole session. But I know there is kind of a campaign for Dice Throne, isn't there?
Well, that's a Dice Throne Adventures, but the campaign, the story of it is that you're taking on you have to fight all the bosses, right. and that's it. However, I believe after you finish, you do add cards to your deck. It is a deck builder. So that's the campaign segment of it. But for me, if you want, you can just play the portal crawl and the game's over.
Yeah, you could. I could play just the story of Oathsworn. I could just fight the boss battles. I don't have to do the story for Oathsworn.
Okay, all right.
It could be just a boss battler and just fight them. And they kind of technically have that. You can just read that one page and then fight the boss. If you wanted to. And like, if for example, Colin and I ever wanted to come back to the game and be like, dude, I'd totally like to fight this boss with different set of dudes. Perfect. Let's put on the bonk encounter mode. Let's just go.
Okay. All right.
You know, I mean, we wouldn't have to have that story technically if we didn't want it. And I know I keep using Oathsworn as the example, but it's that.
No, but I see your point. Yeah, I see your point.
That's just how I would think of it. I mean, I've got what other games I got? I mean, Bard's Song is very similar to that. It's like, or even Shadows of Brimstone. It's a full dungeon crawl until you get to that last room. Then once that happens, you trigger the end of. Usually, it's a big battle of some kind with more powerful enemies. finish that, and then you're done with that mission, and then you go back and have to do the settlement phase stuff. Kind of not like Kingdom Death. You go back to your town and do things.
I want to bring up a point that Marcel mentioned here real quick.
Please.
He said, "Here's a question for completionists: would you rewind and replay a branching moment in a campaign just to see all the options? Is that also replayability?"
If I can remember where that happened, maybe.
I never rewind games. I'll put it that way. But I think this is an interesting point. I've been noticing this in Ice of Guard. So Ice of Guard is an open world exploration game. So it's got these story moments in it, and these side quests you can do, and a bunch of, you can get distracted doing anything you want, right? And I've been noticing that there's been a lot of people who have been completing everything for the game. And that requires a lot of grinding, right? But like for like Kim and I, we're just like going out doing one side quest, or maybe build this one building, or do this other thing, right? And then moving on, right? Intending that, we can come back later and replay the game and experience something else and explore this other aspect of it. So it's been interesting to see that different approach with folks that have that completionist tendency to want to see everything so they don't replay it again.
Yeah. I think Guard is a good example of a game that would be a little tough to come back to if you did, because no, I guess it wouldn't, because there are so many different stone-bound abilities and different.
It depends on how you play it as a group, right? Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, you can totally, again, once you get past certain points in that game, you can almost create whatever you want. You can make your character become more of a person you want it to be. You know what I mean? I mean, you're kind of stuck with your core guy for the very beginning, but then once you get enough abilities and weapons and things of that nature, all of a sudden now you can kind of shift them around. But I don't know if there's enough variety in what you can do with your characters to make me want to come back to it. I'm excited now. I don't know, but I do like. I don't know. I honestly, I don't think I've played enough of Isofarian Guard to really weigh in on that, even though I'm attempting to quite badly.
No, it's more about the concept of completionist, right?
Right.
If you try to go through a campaign do you leave stuff for you to find at a future playthrough, or do you try to see everything? And another one I'll bring up that was interesting, because I did playtest this, or not playtest this one. I previewed this one. It's not out yet, but Iridia. Amazing game. Love this game. It was awesome. It's another open world adventure game where you have story beats and you can kind of go wherever you want. But I wanted to try the replayability of it because I had a lot of concerns of it. The one thing about this one is there are story elements that I was hoping to forget. I haven't played this one for years, a couple years now, I think. I have to look at when I last previewed it. But I still remember very clearly story moments, which is both a good and bad thing. That means it was a really impactful session to me, and I loved it, but also takes away from the replayability a little bit, right? Now, the replayability comes back when you come into the game with different characters, right, to try different groups. So that still has replayability in that sense. And even though I replayed the preview multiple times, and I knew it was coming, I still enjoyed it, so the mechanical aspects were good enough to bring me back to the game. So yeah.
I'm not jealous.
Yes.
I'm not jealous at all.
Marcel, this is gonna be your game. I'll be surprised if you don't like Iridia, honestly. This is
another thing we haven't talked about when it comes to campaign games is not only the time that it takes to play the campaign games, but how many you have. And I've got too many. And so I'm not going to be able to come back to a lot of these because
admitting it is the first part of
the growth. I can easily say I've probably got too many.
Admitting you have a problem.
You think you have a problem?
She'll know that I'm admitting this, but if I have too many of them, I might not get to the end of some of these. A lot of it is because maybe another one has come out that I'm really excited for, or I just, like, for example, sadly I have to say Descent's been sitting up here for a long time. Colin and I got lost interest. We just didn't enjoy it.
Let it go.
Let me throw that out at you real quick, Bairnt, because I saw this comment earlier. If you had less campaign game choices, do you think you would actually get through and finish out a game like Descent?
Uh,
Because
No.
here's what I'm proposing.
no, I think
Because you
yes.
have this campaign here and this campaign here, this one over here, this one over here. You play one, you like it, but maybe this other one you like more. So I'm gonna jump over here and try this one, right? Oh, but I've got this other one. Let me jump over here and try this one, right?
Yeah.
But if you only have like 2 choices,
I'd
would
play the
you
one I like
play
more.
this one to completion?
Yeah. I think he would pick up Shadows of Brimstone over that.
And I think that's if this was my only campaign game I owned.
Yeah.
Then you play.
Or 1 or 2 of
I'd
them.
be
Let's put it
playing
that
board
way.
games.
Maybe 1 or 2 of them.
Nope, I wouldn't be playing board. I'd probably go back to video games and be like, wow, board games suck.
Tell us how you really feel about the set.
It held our attention for a while, but then it's you need it needs to be fun. I think that's why I have so many of these. It's because I want to experience the fun. And so when I find the ones that are super fun, I'm super pumped. This is not so fun. The problem is everybody else knows that too, and I can't get rid of it for like $1. So who knows? I might have fun with it playing with somebody down the line that I've never met before yet. It might be the most enjoyable thing ever. So you never know where it's going to come. I think that's not going to happen. But I mean, there's other games like that I have. Like for example, I've got Myth. I own all of it, and I will always own all of it because I had such a fun time experiencing that game. Now, other people most people are like, Myth is a disaster. Why would I ever play that game? That's all you ever hear about that game. But I've had nothing but fantastic experiences with this game. Again, I think it's because I played with a group that really enjoyed it.
Hold on. You said Myth, so now I got to mention U-Boat. Okay, now you keep.
Oh yeah. And I think, right, Steve?
And I think that's the thing is that everyone has their favorite game that somebody else poos on. Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, the mechanics are fiddly. The game is samey. There's no variety. In the meantime, you're like saying, "Are you on crack? This game's amazing." So it's each their own. I think it's just more for Descent. Descent hurts me because I loved Second Edition, and I only had one problem with Second Edition is that it was on a timer. Other than that, I love Second Edition. And I was excited for that one just like Bairnt was. And when it came in, I was like, oh, cool. It's more of Descent Second. No, it wasn't. Oh my God, this game's horrible. Oh, I hate this so much.
Oh, why did I buy that?
Why did I buy this?
Why did some people buy this game that Fantasy Flight needs to think they need to make more of it?
And then I immediately sold it.
I didn't immediately sell it. Now I'm stuck with this $1 game.
But yeah, I feel like Mike has a comment here, and this is definitely my alignment too. I find playing like Spirit Island more fun every session than a story game, digital or otherwise. Which for me, and I will talk about this more openly now because it's posted. We had our 40,000 subscriber video, and when I sat down and talked about my forever games, like what games will never leave my collection, what games I always come back to, and one common aspect of it was like modularity for me.
Yeah.
Like I like Marvel United. Why do I like it? Because there's so many characters I can try different combinations, different strategies. Marvel Legendary, like let's make this weird scenario and how to build this out. And like Spirit Island, same thing. Like, oh, I've got this spirit. Let's try to play him completely differently. Like, and let's try different elements and different levers or lovers to pull. So call back there.
Different levers to pull.
Different lovers.
Lovers
to
pull.
Yeah, I gotta find that and post that. That's right. That's co-op.
Yeah, I found that like as I was watching y'all's video, which was really great by the way. I think everybody at One Stop did an excellent job. I was looking around my collection to see what my forever games were. I found 4, and all of them were short runs.
Yeah.
It was like play it, you're done, or
this
you
is
can
the
keep
only
going.
one that wasn't for me. This was, and funny thing is, now I'm actually going to argue that this is a campaign game. Because there are 2 parts, the reactor room and then the air ducts and the other part where you get out, the operations and air ducts.
I don't know what it is about that game, Bairnt, but that game, every extra life we have is a blast. Everyone.
Yes. So much fun.
It's so much fun. Like, and I recognize that the game itself, the mechanics are very dated and like old and like it's really not that great, but it's so fun. It's so fun.
And yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So I don't know. I've got a lot of one-offs. I mean, here's Quackopolis here, or whatever. That one's fantastic. Quacks of Quacklenburg. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's just.
But like,
I've always been striving for the perfect campaign game,
I
and
don't think it exists.
that's the thing. It doesn't. So what instead I'm looking for is a camp that things that check off enough boxes to make them worthy of wanting to be played. There aren't a lot, and sadly, even though I have a lot of campaign games, there aren't a lot of them. But I do have, like, I think you saw my list. Those are pretty much all campaign games. I'd love to throw some of the newer ones like ISS Vanguard and Trespass Odyssey on that list too that I made, but I couldn't because I hadn't played them enough to really believe that they are that great. You know what I mean? So it's like, will I ever come back to Bard Song? Probably not. If Bard Song was, like you're saying, one of the only two I had, I'd probably play it a lot because it's a fun game. I just have other things that I'm more interested in.
One of the campaigns I did play multiple times was Reichbusters. And this kind of mentioned, some other people brought this up too. And I think, Derek, you leaned into this, is why it's shorter. Because this is only 10 missions. And they don't take very long. Setup takes a while in the game, for sure.
Oh my gosh, setup's out of control.
It is. It's like one of the worst games when it comes to setup. But the game itself it's fun.
1 hour setup for 30 minutes of playtime.
Not quite that bad, but yeah, the setup is insane.
It's on the level of old Gloomhaven before anybody had any inserts or anything, and everything's in bags. It was on that kind of thing. Oh my god,
really bad when it comes to setup, for sure. But
anyway, sorry, Steve.
It's only 10 missions, so we replayed it, and the characters are very different how they play. So it was fun. So that was one.
I think that also helps is when you have when you have campaigns that are shorter, you'll get back to them more often.
Yeah,
because the shorter campaigns I think have tighter mechanics and more
another one
more on mechanics than they are on the story.
Right. V Sabotage has 3 ways of playing it. You can play as a one-off. You can play it as an operation, which is linked levels. And you can play as a campaign, which is linked operations on top of that. So it's like, you can do like short, medium, and long way of playing it. And I've played these a ton of different times, a ton of different ways. So like, I think that having that flexibility is a big pro. And that's something I mentioned with Sword and Sorcery too, which is nice, is they have one-off options in that one too, which is nice. So like, you can jump in, I want to do mission 5 of this campaign. Well, here's the instructions how to make it work. And it has an arena mode where you're like, you know what? I'm just going to take some heroes, throw in an arena with spitting blades and fire pits and lions and everything and fight in there. No big deal, right? So, like, having that flexibility to take these campaign games and pull them out into other means helps a lot.
Yeah.
Mid-Hala coming up does that too. Where you start from 0 to hero. It has an overall story and campaign as it plays through it. But you can choose a different hero each time. Your party can be a different number of people each time, so that helps a little bit to bring it back to the table. Now I don't know about replayability of that one. I gotta play through it some more to figure that one out. So
I think another thing that's when it comes to the smaller campaigns, I think they have a lot more. I don't know how it all works. I'm not a designer. I'm not anything at all. I just play the games and enjoy them. I feel that the smaller campaigns that have a tendency to be quicker to play through have almost had that full playtest experience. So when you're doing a full, the ones that I'm just saying overall, let's put it this way. Let's Sword and Sorcery. If you've played Sword and Sorcery and you're getting near the end of that game, it's out of control. The play, I don't know what happened, but the balance is kind of not as good as as when you first start that game.
Yeah,
I've noticed. And so other than, and just the opposite has happened. I've been really excited for the fact that Oathsworn is opposite of that. They really seem like they put the play test time in so that they can balance each of those. But in the similar aspect, like Steve says, I could jump in and just play mission 19, and they have the rules for how you can make your Oathsworn be Oathsworns for mission 19.
Yeah. Yep. So I agree with you all on the points of kind of like the mini campaigns, the smaller sessions things. I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
No, not you, Derek.
not
me.
you.
Not me. I never have opinions, everybody. I never have opinions. I am not an opinionated person whatsoever.
Only allowed 3 opinions per session. Remember, that's the rule. Otherwise, you don't get to come back next week. So let's hear it, Derek.
Oh my god, that was amazing. So I threw out a mini campaign game that you will probably pick that you will say, oh, that's cool, but you will probably pick a longer game over. Cthulhu Death May Die.
Always.
Because it is a mini game. Every session is an episode. And you can stop after each episode and switch characters. You're starting back over from 0 to hero. But I feel like a lot of people say that game's not fun, or they would rather play a different game like Sworn or Madara than play Cthulhu Death May Die.
That's because it's not a campaign game.
It is a campaign game.
Death May Die's campaign?
There's not an interconnected story.
Well,
it's not interconnected. You're not carrying anything over.
Fair
mission,
I consider it a one-off. It's very similar to Deep Madness. I tried to, that I was talking about earlier.
Deep Madness is not a one-off. That's a campaign.
No, it's not interconnected stories. And
yes, it is. Yes, it is an interconnected story. I played it all the way through to the end. It is completely interconnected.
Oh, all right. I haven't guessed. I have to look into it again because from I said their stories really aren't interconnected, and you start over from 0 to hero every time.
You start over from 0 to hero, but the story is interconnected. You are in the oil rig. You get there and you have to make your way through it, figuring out what happened. There is a fully connected story all the way to the end.
Amazing. And then I actually have to really dig into this game now because I was
but it is.
Oh yeah, it's not a campaign game. It's not interconnected. Nothing really. You're just doing one.
Don't listen to them. I can tell you about Deep Madness. I played the whole thing. It's just more.
Now I got to paint it. Thank you.
but it's just there is a fully interconnected story. It is hot trash, but there is fully an interconnected story.
Tell us how you really feel.
Now I'm really excited to play this game.
But you do start 0 to hero every mission, but the story is completely connected 100%.
Now the question is that a campaign? Because that's another thing we haven't talked about is the fact that in all the campaigns, one thing we talked about is progressing our heroes, progressing our protagonists along, right?
Yeah.
So when you have those games that have an interconnected story, Deep Madness, which I didn't know was interconnected because you always started right back at square one every time. And like you're saying, Cthulhu Death May Die, always starting back at ground 0 every time. Are those considered campaign games then? Because it's hard for me to argue that those are. Is the problem because you're not carrying anything over. You're not, from a design point, that almost makes it easier because you're not having to have all this variability of, oh my gosh, this guy's putting over the sword breaker from mission 3. That's going to be terrible.
I mean,
kind of, Bairnt, but the problem is when you have all that modularity, you can have combinations you just can't test.
Right.
And you can have broken systems, right? So.
That's one of the hard parts sometimes when making a campaign is I think Madara kind of experienced that when they brought out their very first game. They brought it out, boom, was on the table, and all of a sudden people are going like, oh, I got this guy, he can just wreck face. And this other, it's like, oh.
Yeah, Deep Madness, Snow says, campaign equals something carries over, either story or mechanics or equipment or both or all of the above.
There you go.
I think for people who said Deep Madness is not a campaign, I will heavily argue with them because here's the story. Kadath deep mining facility went silent. You and a group of people are going down to find out what happened. And as you step through the story, you find out what happened. So, and there's things that you find, journal entries that tell you that is revealing what happened as you go through the game.
That's amazing.
It's a campaign game.
I have to.
I wish you well.
It's quite the game. I actually found Mike and Peter's like top dungeon crawlers of all time.
That breaks my brain.
Tails?
Huh?
You talking about Tales of Red Dragon Inn?
No. He's talking about Deep Madness.
Oh, Deep Madness.
It breaks my brain only because, like, I think the one thing that is really well done in that game is the initiative order. I think it's done fantastic. Everything else.
It's funny because I've read the rules for that game twice, and I've never actually played it. Every time I think I'm going to play it, I'm like, oh, I should totally play this game. And then I start looking at how the 84 miniatures I need to paint just for the one scenario, and I'm like, oh my gosh, really? 84 dudes.
Oh, that's right, because every single enemy is random. Yep. Yeah.
And the thing is, like people said, oh, but you can pick the enemies you're fighting. Yeah, the 6 groups of enemies you can pick, which is now you've only got 84 minutes to paint. 80 enemies before being your dudes.
I look forward to your coverage of that game. I'm just gonna say you'll play the first session and you'll be like, I don't know what Kanji's talking about. This game is amazing. It's a lot of fun. And then you're gonna get to that one point and you'll be like, what the hell is this?
I do know that Dimension games. I know that their games are tough. I know they get tough.
It's not about difficulty. It's not about difficulty. That's the thing. I knew the game was hard going in. I knew I would struggle on it going in. When you get to that point, just Marco Polo me and be like, yeah, I see it.
I'll say, you're right, Derrick.
You were right all along.
As you see me just take this game and throw it in the trash. Oh my god!
You gotta do it in slow motion. Yeah, I think from a mechanic standpoint, maybe I could see why Mike would like it. But anyway, let's continue on.
Well, yeah. So basically, there's so many different ways to like. First off, we spent all last week kind of defining campaign, but then we're still defining it in a way.
Yeah.
And then we have to decide if we're going to come back to it and play it again and again. And for me, I would play it again and again based on new players. I would play it again based on branching narratives and different parts of the story that would make it fresher, and maybe coming back to it based on characters. But also, I have to decide if it's worth the investment based on how much time it takes you to get through these campaigns to warrant wanting to play again.
And for my answer, I probably would not replay a campaign game. Case in point, the Initiative. It's a campaign game. Lots of fun, very light. I'm done with it. I think like once I beat a campaign game, I'm kind of done. This is probably leads into the why I like the one-off returnable type of games that's not campaigns. So yeah, once I finish, once I get to Aaron Trespass Odyssey, if it's got the KDM vibe, I'll hang on to it because it's not about the campaign. It's about the journey.
It's about
the Odyssey.
The Odyssey. I haven't gotten enough into it to know, but from what I understand, it is very similar in that aspect where the Odyssey is kind of your big deal.
Then I'll keep it. Yeah, then I'll keep it. But if it's like, oh no, you play the story and that's it, I probably wouldn't either. So no, I wouldn't. I would not replay any campaign that I've played. All right.
Now, if KDM introduced a system similar to Aeon Trespass Odyssey with the boat where you go around and everything, would that?
I don't like it like that, but I haven't played it enough. Let me say that. Let me change my answer. I haven't played it enough to say whether I like the Argo journey or not. KDM's like little walk that you do to get to the boss. I prefer that, but
because I think in theory he's attempting to change that. It was one of the things he's working on. Trying to flesh out that system was one of the things they did with the Gambler's Chest. Could be completely wrong because I never know, but I'm pretty sure that was one of that got the most flack when the game originally came out because you had this awesome boss battling, you had this awesome settlement phase, and they just had this one guy going boom, 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 boom down a track.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, I need more from this because it didn't feel like three different things. It felt like two different things with something just kind of.
Yeah, let me play like 9 more times, and then I'll be able to say if I like the Argo phase or not.
I hear you. Well, when we get back from Gen Con, Colin and I are going to start our epic journey, so we will. I
probably might start with you then, so that we can see how it varies. I'm be curious. I may start up with you to just see how it varies.
Yeah, I have to admit, the first mission or the first set of flying around on the boat. It's probably gonna be a lot of Colin doing it because if you watch my channel, I actually did at least a couple videos.
I've done it too.
I did that mainly because whenever I try to do games with Colin, I want people to know that there is a video out there that you can watch and learn from, so we don't feel like we have to sit there and try to teach this entire game as well as we're playing it. A lot of that, I think a lot of it, it just all of a sudden adds a lot of time, especially when we don't have a lot of time. We started like 8:30 at night. We're like, okay, it's like 11 o'clock. We're going up.
I'll reach out to you, Bairnt. I think I might try to sync with you to see how the differences in the Odyssey go.
Is right. That's the deal. That's how it all works. I'm gonna think. So yeah. Anyway, campaign games are awesome. I love them. I play them a lot. I'm actually, like I said, just got a brand new one. I'm going to assemble my models of that while I do family movie day. I multitask.
Yeah, let me jump into my response for you guys. Talk about campaign games replayability and what makes it for me. So I'm very much on, if you were to do the chart of breadth versus depth. Breadth meaning play a lot of games. Depth means play less games but more often. I'm very much on the depth side, right? I like H-index, if you guys ever use those metrics, is something that I like to follow sometimes and try to see what my H-index is and see how much value I'm getting out of my collection. So for me, replaying games is generally pretty high for me. And I think the big thing hearing about folks in this chat and what I learned is having less campaign games definitely makes me want to replay them more often.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That is very true for me. So
yes.
And that is also kind of getting into a little bit of the my campaign fatigue, to be honest. Like when I'm looking at buying new games, if it says campaign on it, that is now a negative turn, despite the fact I very much enjoy campaign games. It's just that, like, for me, I actually want to get through them. I want to get to the end. And you know what? Sometimes I might want to replay them. Now, for me, the replay part of it, it is not going to be narrative driven. I enjoy the narrative, but it's not going to be the reason why I replay it. It's going to be some other, give me something to explore, something new to explore. Be it not seeing all the branching options, the side missions, or be it different character builds, something new in the same system that I can explore. And that's going to bring me back to the table.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, for me, I wouldn't, if I see it and it says campaign, I wouldn't do it. I would look at the amount of hours. If it's over 40, I say no.
That's true too.
Because of the campaign fatigue that you exactly talked about.
Yeah. Which is I think now when I see campaign, the next thing I look at is how long is that campaign? Is it 3 missions? Awesome. 10 missions? Cool. 20 missions? 80 hours? Oh, God.
So 160 hours.
Well, okay, so I know we've talked about this in the past, but sometimes you wonder if those numbers are put there. It's like, 160 hours if you do every mission, but you're only going to do 45 missions.
Right,
Some out of the 85 missions or 120 missions or whatever. So you never really know sometimes what those numbers mean. For some people, it's fantastic, and others it's not. So I mean, sometimes you wonder, do you even? I've almost noticed some of the recent campaigns they don't put the number there anymore. They'll put like huge epic story, 40 missions. Okay, 40 missions, but what? Like, are those beats? Are they?
Yeah. The hours are definitely a turnoff for me. I know I saw one. Was it Tenaris Adventures? That put the hours on there, and it's like 6,000 some odd hours.
Hours on that.
Like,
back that.
You backed it?
No, I did not back it. No, I did not back it. I was like, no way, my back is 600 hours.
That is way too much. That's way too much. Even if they say like, oh well, like you said, Bairnt, you will never see everything. Just seeing that number give me agita.
I think Spycom also has an interesting point too, that I do this for sure. So any games that I'm going to miss out on for campaigns, I just enjoy watching other people play it, right?
Yeah.
So like I'll jump in. I've been watching Bairnt and Colin's Oathsworn, right? Because I know I'm not going to play that whole thing or stuff like that. And when you guys start ATO, Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, I'll watch you guys too, because I'm not going to play it either. So no big deal.
You're going to play it. You're going to like it.
I will always want to play these games, but I won't actually get through it, is what I'm getting to. Yes, you're right.
Also, Kanji, what I'm hearing is Steve actually doesn't like campaign games. So I was wondering, would you like to start a chat on Saturday mornings?
Hold on. I got something for this. Ready?
You're about to get muted.
There you go.
Tell us what it's like to be without Steve on the morning. I don't think I can handle it. I gotta have Steve there.
Oh my gosh. No, Steve must be in. Steve must be in. Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh,
No.
you guys are the best.
We'll see. Everybody's. I think it's such a. There's so many different polarizing factors when it comes to campaign games that it's just awesome that there's that many out there that people want to play.
Yeah.
It's really similar to if we ever did something about one shots. Like there's so many different types of one-shot games or one-sitting games. There's those adventure games. There's like Spirit Island type games where it's like more of a thinky puzzle type games. There's a Pandemic where it's like hoping you're holding back the badness, like kind of thing. There's so many different types of games out there, which is I think one of the coolest things about this space.
Yeah, yeah. I'll leave it at that. I think that it's you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yep. Cool.
I'm going to put that in. That's going to be the best of this co-op chat is Kanji saying you're the best, and it's just going to keep repeating.
Well, you're royalty, right? I like I'm mandated to say that you're the best. I'm mandated. What was great? So Steve and I give Bairnt tons of grief about someone making a statement that he's royalty. So we constantly tease him about it.
I'll kill you.
Yesterday.
Him walking down.
Yes, yeah. Yesterday, there was a comment on the D&D one that was, "Oh my God, Bairnt's in here! That's incredible!" Oh, it was the prime moment to torture him for like 10 minutes.
I am just a dude that plays games, man.
I think the statement was, "I didn't know Bairnt was in this. This is incredible!" And so I was like, "Yep, that's why you come here, for royalty." so I messaged Bairnt and I said, one of your subjects requests your response."
Oh my gosh, you guys are horrible. Absolutely horrible. Wow.
Well, Mike has some good comments in here too. Talking about watching campaigns is tough, which I agree. It is. Like for me, like because there is an ongoing story, you kind of have to catch each video. And for me, I normally jump in, and it's hard to watch a video at all. Right? For me, if I'm watching something on YouTube, you can pretty much guarantee I'm doing something else at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much guaranteed.
Like cleaning the house.
Cleaning the house, doing dishes, something, maybe working on content, honestly. So
yeah,
but,
I
so
will
like,
say
it's hard, but like for me, I jump in to watch the people, right?
Yep,
I want to see how you guys interacting, some of the mechanics, get a feel for the game, and that's good enough for me. So, but anyway, we've been talking forever. I think we could still keep talking about this topic. So I think we'll probably end it in this chat. But before we do so, let's go around and talk about what we got planned for. I'm gonna look at
Bairnt. What are you doing?
What you got, Bairnt?
What you got, Bairnt?
No, don't ask me first because I don't know.
That's exactly why I asked you first each time. It's hilarious.
The only thing I'm probably going to try to do is I'm going to try to do a painting episode or an assembly episode of some Shadows of Brimstone stuff from the new Kickstarter just came out. Hopefully next week. Cool. Like I've said before, July is the hardest month for me to record anything. Because my wife's a teacher, kids are off school, so we do a lot of stuff together, and we don't ever. I lose my night, which is usually when I do a lot of recording, because we all hang out, play games, watch film, do stuff, right? So, but I got that Shadows of Brimstone stuff. I did unboxing, dropping in about an hour on the channel. I got to just edit it. So there's 1.5 million screws out there that want to get cut to pieces and assembled. So I'm going to do that. I'll probably do some of it online. Yep. I got a plan. Yeah. And that's the best. Colin is actually not going to be available for the next couple of weeks. So we're not doing Oathsworn until the 31st of July. So there's a little bit there. So I might find some time to be able to recording. I'm almost done with Vampires Chapter, the first mission. I think I said I was going to do that the last 4 weeks. And I'm almost done. That's the deal. Other than that,
I've never heard of that game. Is it multiplayer? Is it multiplayer?
Wait for the expansion.
Nope.
For me, Sunday is D&D, right? We're all playing D&D on Sunday. So come back for episode 2 of Whispers of Change, the Shadowblade Chronicles. And Tuesday, I'm going to attempt to learn Perseverance episode 2, so I can play it on Tuesday. I think I'm getting more into the Euros because of that's the one-off thing. I just hate the point chase. Anyway, Thursday, Pandemic Legacy Season 2, February. And then Saturday, back to co-op chat.
Cool. Yeah, for me, I'll be doing Monday. It'll probably be the last playthrough video for now for Deep Rock Galactic. I'm going to do a procedurally generated map this time to show you how that works. And then Wednesday will be Co-op Corner, which will be news coverage. So I've got some games I'm going to talk about for that one. And I have been playing Spirit Island, Nature Incarnate, New Spirits. I did that last week, and I actually had a random video I did of... I might try to squeeze in another random video of that one too, as I trying to cover these different spirits. And of course, co-op chat on Saturday, which may be Gen Con focused, because no Gen Con's coming up. So I think we should probably talk about that and prep others who are going there. And honestly, convey a little bit about what our plans are, because honestly, I think you guys will probably agree. Like, I would love to meet anybody who's in the chat now to come talk to us. Like, I would love to meet you face to face. So
yeah. We're trying to get something interesting going. So
yes,
TBD.
Yep.
Am I part of that?
Yes, you're
of course.
Nice. Yes.
You know exactly what it is. What are you talking about?
That's fantastic. I'm super excited.
How it works is royalty doesn't have to worry about it. They just show up. The peons have to do the work.
That's true. This is the best side of royalty. I just need to show up. The peasants will take care of everything.
Oh, good to go. So make sure you bring me a cup of coffee when I come. And I'm good to go.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay. Well, I think that's probably going to end it for this chat. I want to thank everyone for joining. It's been a blast like always. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you at the next stop.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.